Most women think weight loss is hard. I'm going to be honest with you, it's not. In fact, most of you listening are professional weight losers. You have lost the same 30, 50, or 80 pounds half a dozen times. Half the time it's, losing 3 pounds this during the week and gaining those three back on the weekend. You know how to restrict. You know how to grit your teeth. You know how to perform effort. But what's hard is that stillness afterward. What's hard is keeping it off. If the weight keeps coming back, you've probably spent years making that mean something about your character. We've blamed our discipline, our follow through, our willpower. We've convinced ourselves that we just haven't found the right amount of self-control yet, or we need to get better at prepping our food, or this or that. I need to wait till things calm down. But I'm here to tell you that discipline isn't the problem. The problem is called weight defense. Your body has defended a weight range, which is your set point. And right now it's treating your weight loss like an emergency it needs to solve. Until you understand the biology of that defense, you'll keep fighting your own survival instincts instead of understanding the system that's just trying to keep you safe. Today, we're going to stop the fight. We're going to talk about why the weight comes back and how to finally disarm that defense. You're listening to the Set Point Science Podcast, the science behind how your body and brain regulate weight for good. I'm your host, Sherry Alberts. If you spent your life blaming a lack of discipline for why that weight keeps coming back, prepare for a gentle correction. Today, we're going to look at the strategic rescue mission your body stages every time you try to force a change. It's not a failure of character, it's a victory of biology. Let's get into the science of weight defense. Okay, I want to say something plainly, bluntly, because we tend to overcomplicate this thing. I am not here to argue with the laws of thermodynamics, okay? Physics are real. You are physically capable of losing weight. You are not broken. I have coached women for years with a thought experiment that I call the closet test. It's blunt, but it's necessary to understand the difference between your math and your medicine. If I locked you in a closet for 2 weeks and I underfed you, you would lose weight every single time. No debate, no mindset shift required, no personality type or special discipline needed, because the human body, when energy intake drops below its expenditure, it's going to release tissue. That's just physics. It's the law of how that type of matter behaves. And that is where most diet advice stops. They treat you like this closed system, a math problem to be solved, but you are not a calculator. You are a biological organism. So the issue has never been, can your body lose weight? It can, okay? The issue is what happens when I open that closet door again. Because the second that door opens and you walk back into real life with the stress, the access to food, the unpredictability, the fatigue, your brain is waiting, and it is not waiting calmly. It's waiting strategically. See, while you were in that closet that I locked you in, your nervous system wasn't asleep. It was like taking notes. It was saying, if we ever get out of here, if food becomes available again, we are never getting caught like that again. And that is weight defense. It's not passive, and it's definitely not lazy. It's protective. It's an insurance policy. Your brain and your nervous system love you. If they think you were in a famine, even a self-imposed one, it's going to build insurance the next time food shows up. So the body doesn't want to repeat that closet incident. So it doesn't ask for your permission. It simply prepares. It raises your hunger. It sharpens your cravings. It lowers expenditure. It increases reward sensitivity, etc. So most weight loss plans are just creative, expensive versions of the closet. But the goal isn't to learn to survive the closet better or find a better closet. The goal is to build a life where you never need one in the first place. We don't disarm weight defense by proving we can tolerate the closet longer. We disarm it by removing the need for a closet through predictable rhythms and nervous system regulation. Now, this starvation mode. Let's clear up the confusion around what we call starvation mode. So you've heard it before. Maybe you've even said it yourself. If I undereat, my body's just going to hold on to that fat. But let's be direct. There is not a magical switch where your body defies the laws of physics and stores fats while you are in a true caloric deficit. That's not how human metabolism works. But something very real is happening, and it's called adaptive thermogenesis. What does this mean? When your brain, specifically the hypothalamus, remember we talked about that system in the first podcast? When that system senses prolonged restriction, it doesn't panic. It adapts. It says, hey, this is happening. So let's do some things to protect this person. Your leptin, which is your I'm full hormone, it drops. Your ghrelin, which is your I'm hungry hormone, it rises. Your resting metabolic rate lowers. Your NEAT, that unconscious movement stuff that we do, like fidgeting, that decreases. Your system becomes more efficient, not broken. Your body is essentially saying, we might be in a famine, so let's conserve. That is not sabotage. That's survival biology. The real problem isn't the slower metabolism, it's the increased drive. Hunger gets louder, cravings get sharper. Relief seeking becomes an obsession. When women say, my body held on to weight because I didn't eat enough, what they're actually describing is a nervous system that prepared for scarcity and then overcorrected the moment that food was available again. That is not starvation mode the way we think of it. That is defense. And defense will always win against willpower in the long run. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, self-sabotage. So most of us use that word like it's a character flaw. We think we're just bad at this or that we can't get out of our own way. But in the world of set point science, self-sabotage doesn't even exist. What you're actually experiencing is a strategic rescue mission. Your brain isn't trying to fail the diet. It's trying to save the dieter. If your system perceives that you're stuck in this closet, physically or emotionally, it's eventually going to stage a breakout. It will override your logic to ensure your survival. It's not you failing yourself. It's your brain outmaneuvering your fancy restriction to bring you back to a place of safety. Forcing your body harder only backfires because it increases the load on your system. This is where the brilliance comes in. I've coached for years on the idea that weight defense speaks the language your brain learned you respond to with the most force, just to make sure you actually listen to it. And it doesn't suggest random things either. It doesn't whisper for bread pudding if that's not your thing. It suggests M&Ms, for instance, because it knows exactly what you'll respond to. It gives you the same old reliable excuses like, oh, I really need a break because today was so stressful, or it's Friday, I deserve this wine. It speaks in the language you will actually hear. Think of it like your brain is putting on a costume it knows you'll trust. It isn't trying to trick you. It's trying to protect you from what it perceives as effort and pain. It's a system that spent years learning how to keep you safe. You don't have a willpower problem. You have a system that is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now let's ground this in the actual physiology of how your brain decides to act. It all comes down to something called leptin signaling. Think of leptin as your body's internal fuel gauge. It's a hormone produced by your fat cells, and its only job is to tell your brain how much stored energy you have in the tank. So when you lose weight, those fat cells shrink and your leptin levels drop. Now you might see that lower number on the scale as a success, but your brain does not. It interprets a drop in leptin as a looming famine. When that fuel gauge hits E, your hypothalamus, remember we talked about that, the energy regulation center of your brain, it hits the panic button. It's not because you failed. It's because survival systems are biologically biased towards this defense. Research shows that the moment leptin drops, a cascade of changes happens that you cannot outthink. Ghrelin, your hunger alarm, it screams louder. Your resting metabolic rate takes a nosedive. Your neural reward response to food, especially high calorie food, it is turned all the way up. This isn't a mindset issue. This is adaptive biology doing its job. And here's the part that most people miss though. Your body doesn't actually want to be overweight. Carrying a higher body weight is metabolically expensive. It increases your workload, it increases inflammation, and it puts a massive strain on your system. Your body knows this. It would much rather be at a lighter, more efficient weight, but it will choose expensive safety over risky release every single time. Remember last episode how we talked about going into the closet and starving ourselves? If your nervous system sees closets and famines and fasts in your history repeatedly, it's going to defend the higher weight as a survival strategy. It would rather pay that tax of inflammation and strain than risk running out of fuel during the next emergency. Your body isn't holding on to fat to be stubborn or because you're broken or anything like that. It's holding on to fat because it just doesn't trust the forecast. We don't change weight by forcing the release. We change it by changing the forecast from emergency to safety. Okay, now let's shift a little bit. I want you to stop seeing your weight defense, like we've been talking about, as a villain that's trying to ruin your life. It's not a villain. It's a smoke alarm. Its entire job is to keep you alive by detecting danger. If you burn toast once, the alarm goes off, right? That smoke alarm. It's loud, it's annoying, but it's understandable. But if you burn that toast every single morning, if you put your body through the closet of restriction over and over and over again, that alarm is going to become hypersensitive in your body. Eventually, it doesn't wait for smoke. It actually starts going off before you even turn the toaster on. It begins to anticipate emergency because your history has taught it that an emergency is always coming. Now, imagine trying to solve that problem by standing on a chair and yelling at the smoke alarm. That's what most weight loss attempts look like. You bring intensity, you bring pressure, you bring force. You think that if you just scream and get your willpower, discipline better, right? The alarm is actually going to listen to you. It's going to reason and shut up. But the alarm doesn't calm down because you scream at it. In fact, to the alarm, your screaming, your restriction, your self-criticism, all that force just sounds like more fire. It confirms the emergency. In fact, it makes that defense even louder, especially as we get older. You don't solve a hypersensitive system by ripping the alarm off the ceiling or screaming at the alarm. You solve it by changing the actual environment until it stops smelling like smoke, stops looking like fire. You stop burning the toast. You reduce the threat signals. You provide adequate nourishment and predictable rhythms. That is what we call weight defense disarmament. We're not trying to break the alarm. We're not trying to force through. We are trying to prove to the alarm that it can finally stand down because the house is safe. So why do most people stay stuck in the regain cycle? Because almost every weight loss attempt on the market is designed to increase that pressure. Apps, point systems, calorie counting, focus, push. And as we've established, in the human body, pressure equals threat. That equals defense. And defense equals regain. You do not have a willpower problem. You have an armed system. That's all. And we try to overpower a brilliant biological defense with more intensity. You're actually training your smoke alarm to be more sensitive. You are proving to your brain that the famine is getting worse. We talked about that idea of the closet test. Like if I were to put you into a closet for 2 weeks, you would lose weight. If I fed you and controlled that whole system, I could make you lose weight. Anyone could do it if they just could be locked away somewhere. That closet, it works for the physics of weight loss, but real life is governed by biology, all the things that surround us, how we respond to our environment. So instead of locking ourselves in a metaphorical closet again, which ironically turns that response up, we want to change the signals completely. So we stop the strategic rescue mission by removing the chronic threat of scarcity. We do this by installing 5 specific pillars of safety. Rhythm, teaching your system exactly when to expect the fuel so it stops guessing. Predictability, removing the surprise of restriction that triggers that alarm. Adequate nourishment, proving to the fuel gauge that there's no famine. Nervous system regulation, training the brain to stay in that prefrontal gear instead of that survival gear. And directional pressure, nudging the weight down with precision, not force. This isn't about obsession or punishment. It's about building a life where your system no longer feels like it has to escape a fire all the time. With repetition, your nervous system learns a new state. stability. And when stability becomes that predictable norm, your defense doesn't need to activate. It stops building the insurance we talked about before. It stops wearing that costume to speak to you in that certain way. This is the part that everyone misses. Disarmament is a learned biological skill. And once your body learns it's safe, it finally lets go. Not because you forced it, but because it's finally allowed to. If this cycle feels familiar, lose the weight, regain the weight, and then spend months or years blaming yourself for lack of discipline, I need you to hear me. It was never a discipline problem. It was just weight defense. Your body was staging that strategic rescue mission to save you from what it perceived as famine. This is exactly what we address inside Set Point Restore. Most programs are just going to give you a new closet to sit in and hope for the best. We're going to do the opposite. We don't fight the weight. We disarm the defense. We look at the physics, the biology, the neuroscience of your specific system to prove to your brain that, hey, this emergency is over. When you remove that threat, that insurance policy becomes unnecessary. The body stops defending the higher range because it no longer feels the need to. Founding member pricing for my monthly membership Set Point Restore closes tomorrow, March 11th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. After that, the price increases. If you're ready to stop locking yourself in metaphorical closets and start building a biological system that never needs one again, I'm inviting you to join us. Go to setpointscience.com/restore. I'll see you inside. Thanks for listening to the Set Point Science podcast. And until next time, don't fight your body. Disarm what's protecting it.